Well, the firearm deer season has begun, and I hope everyone had a great opening day. Tonight, we'll visit a camp and talk to a longtime hunter who's seen many an opening day.
When I first started hunting, I'll tell you, I didn't even have a gun, but I had to follow one of the older ones to learn the way around the woods. Now, it was our thing, I guess, them days. It was fun, though.
Stick around. It's Monday night and time for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
In the Upper Peninsula, we love to hunt. For many of us, camp is a big part of that as well. Deer camp. How we hunt has changed in various ways over the years, but the fact that we love to hunt has not. When you put those two together, hunting and camp, you get great times, a great tradition, and some great stories. Stories of what hunting was like many years ago, how it was different, and how it's the same. A lot of us can't really attest to what it was like back then, so it was a pleasure and an honor to sit down and talk with someone who can. I spent some time at camp with Hank Kliekamp, who turned 101 this year.
We didn't hunt much, unless on Sunday. The neighborhood usually get together, make drives. We never put out bait. Didn't have no blinds. And at the end of the day, if there was any deer shot, because there wasn't very many back in them days, it all whacked up even Steven. Everybody gets their little chunk, you know. Yeah. And sometimes you were posting, sometimes you were a pusher. I done a lot of pushing. When I first started hunting, I'll tell you, I didn't even have a gun, but I had to follow one of the older ones to learn the way around the woods. Now, it was our thing, I guess, them days. It was fun, though. Then that when we got to school the next day, you know, we could lie about all what we done. Yeah, that was good old days, though. But be home by 5 o'clock to milk them cows, you know. Oh. Then I think I must have been, by 14, I think I carried that little 22 crack shot. We didn't have guns enough to go around them days much, you know. Yeah, there was kind of lean times some of them years. In the Depression, you know, Great Depression in the early 30s. Yeah, we made do. We didn't have hunting clothes, whatever we had, we wore out in the woods. But that wasn't, you know, it was just local people, so nobody was getting shot or anything. Sometimes we'd start hunting out in the Spalding Township or at what we call the Mill 40s, you know, where Harold had the mill over there. We'd make drives, drive after drive, all the way through until down here where the furniture factory was. We'd start out by daylight, we'd be there ready to go. When it got dark, they'd go home. If you had any meat, you pick up that on the way back, you know. And then do the farm chores after supper, and then the hunters would come again. If we had deer, they were all butchered, shared up. You know, years ago, sometimes we'd be far out somewhere. We'd get nice big bucks. We'd leave the head there. Can't eat that anyway. That's the way it was. Yeah. I had a 14-pointer one, a big heavy one. I shot that right back at a farm. I hung it in a tree. Well, maybe someday. I didn't watch it close enough. After 3-4 years, most of it is on the ground, piece hanging up. Porcupine got to it. I lost that. It was only an 8-pointer when I went over this way here. We left the head in the woods, just cut the deer up and packed it out. 4/4 of meat of them was 303 pounds on a platform scale. 1948, went back to get the head in deer season, he wasn't there. One of the guys says, the bear must have took it, but I think maybe he took it and sold it. That was 24.5-inch inside spread. Oh, that was a doozy, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, like the camp here, it was a great thing. From the old house, what we were born and raised in, all us kids, the new house got built, we tore that down, and then what we gonna do with all these old logs? So we came down, we threw them logs off between the trees. There was a clearing. And then one thing after another, we cut trees out. The first year, we hunted out of here, but there was no roof. We had a stove in there and a umbrella-covered milk can. Yeah, we cut up the meat on there and we cooked meat. We were out of the wind, eh? That was the first year. There were no windows, no door on it, not windbreak. There would maybe be 15, 20 cars parked off in the woods and old skidding trails or wherever they could walk in there. This used to be wow. The neighbors, family, everything, they would be here, There'd be a box of beer here, a box of beer there. One time I packed 7 cases against the hill over there covered with leaves, that were left over, that much beer there was. So we couldn't have drank very much if there was that much left over. First years there in the 60s, there were no other camps around here. Arnold's always had the one up at the old 7 up there. And I don't know. And there got to be a few more here. Now, they all have camps. When I bought this 440s here, that people were saying, but you're crazy, $2,500 for that thing? It wasn't very long, they wanted part of it. Way back, as I was a young kid, it was, we didn't call it a violation, it was just, you're making a living. And the game ward they used to pass through, well, they knew what was going on, maybe they'd done some of it themselves. In fact, I know a couple that did. Yeah, they had to live. But then after later years, it kind of died out. People got too lazy to walk the woods at night or anything like that. They had a ride. Me too. And no drinking that time. We never had a bottle or beer or nothing. Yeah, that had to come after the hunt. Yeah. That kind of changed later years with the young people. I never did much myself, but some people, they'd have to have a pint in a 6-pack, take out with them. Oh, no. Or a book to read. I tried that, I think, once or twice, and the goddamn deer was going away already when I looked up out of the book. That wasn't good. I cut that out. Oh. We had fun, though. For how many years did I hunt? From when I first started helping on the drives, I think. I could have been 12. That one little 4-pointer one time right behind the outhouse was over here on this side. He'd come so far and he got behind her. All he'd give is about up to the eyes, the nose, I waited and I waited. It was getting dark and getting darker. I put the rifle away, I took the shotgun. Finally, like a shadow, he stepped out there. He got it. One time we come down here, me and Lester Carr, brother Ed, yeah. and there was ice out in the river. It wasn't up very deep. Oh, we wanted to hunt on the other side. We were scared to go. Well, Lester Carl, he was the heaviest, he was the bravest. He tippy-toed across there. Well, he made it. I'm going too. Ed, he was really scared. So he came on a run. He almost made it there. And on he went, arms and legs up in the air, you know, and the rifle laying out on the ice. And his hinder sticking through a hole down in the water about that big, you know. Lester Carl, he fell down there and the snuff flew out of his mouth and he was just squealing on the bank over there, you know. That was one of the great days. We never lived, or Ed never lived that one down, you know. One over back here one time, I sat back maybe about, it wasn't 5 minutes, I don't think. Well, I better go and, I was supposed to be the one in the middle, one between there. Oh, something moved, you know. Oh, here goes a nice big 8-pointer. Waterloo. As far as working, though, I don't know. I was never afraid of a hard day's work if somebody else done it, you know. That was. Yeah, I always had to work. Ever since I was big enough to carry the little pail and feed the chickens, and then the eggs were heavier, so I had to wait another year or so before I could pick the eggs. And then it was milking the cows and slopping the hogs. And I always had to work. Out there in the fields, picking stones, planting potatoes. I remember on Sunday one time we unhooked the rest of the sleigh from the front bunk, and he put a box on there, hooked a team of horses on, and went to Wilson on a Sunday to get more groceries. And the box wasn't very big either. Well, salt, sugar, pepper, salt, whatever. Yeah, flour. No, I never had to buy flour because we always had a ton or so stacked up there in the fall. Potatoes, maybe 800 bushel in the basement. Meat, quarters of beef or pork. Then, sometimes Sundays or holidays, chop a couple of chickens. It was a great life, though. We thought we had it rough during that Depression. We never went to bed hungry. But boy, people I talked to later on through the years I worked with that lived in the cities, oh my gosh. They suffered. They didn't have anything. When the last dollar was gone, they had to live in the city, you know, just maybe one day or one meal a week. They got soup. Shadow soup maybe sometimes.
Shadow soup?
Yeah, that's when they'd put a barrel of water out there, you know, and hung a cabbage head up there, and when the sun went by, the shadow went over the barrel, the soup was done. I tell you, I knew quite a few people that they had jobs in the city, Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee, or wherever. After about 1930, they were moving. Well, some of the family, maybe they had a little farm or something, they had land. They put up a shack in a corner somewhere and got by the best they could. Well, they got maybe on the farm, they'd get, you know, off of the farm, they could have vegetables, meat. Maybe. I think the first television I saw was up here on the hill. Carl's had one.
Yeah.
They were one of the first ones. And a lot of times they'd get a, you know, something come out and there'd be them two little guys, you know, their heads together, you know, and that. Oh yeah, we got a signal today, you know, and stuff. And then you'd, out of Milwaukee. I think out of Milwaukee once in a while you'd get a little show or something. We didn't have a radio, I think, in 1937. Yeah, we got our first radio in 1937. And our first television, I think, was 1954 when we got one at home, a black and white. We had that a couple of years.
I wasn't born.
Oh, we were at Bark River. But Jim, yeah, that was Jim Anderson in the Campbell store there. Who walks? Yeah, I'm going to get one of them. Me and Mom went there to buy a snowmobile because everybody said, you got to have a snowmobile, you got to have a snowmobile. And we went there to buy a snowmobile, and Jim was so busy that night. Oh, he was selling snowmobiles. And then we were looking at that's just when the color televisions come out. I said, you know, before I leave tonight, I'm going to buy that television, that color. After a while, Jim come around. We know him pretty good. Yeah. What are you looking for? I said, I want to buy that television there. He said, you know, Hank, I'm so busy. He said, why don't you just take it? We'll settle up later. We forgot all about the snowmobile. We took that television and went home. Next Friday night, we went down there to pay him for the television. He didn't even know about it. He didn't even remember. We took the television. Jim, I said, I owe you $400 for the television. He didn't remember. And we never did buy a snowmobile because it really was never my thing much, I guess. But I went out, said, you got to have a snowmobile and that, you know. I went out and bought a brand new pickup instead. I could ride around to the bars and nice and warm, you know. Yeah, I tell you. I seen a lot of things in my time. And I hope to see more.
I get the feeling you're gonna.
Well, I think I started, I was 22, Stevens, they call it crack shot. The whole thing was about that long. Then I had a 12 gauge, that was my dad's gun. All of us kids, me and my brother, we all broke in with that old, it killed both ways really. Ah, that was bad. And then I graduated into, I ended up last year's now with old 300 Savage. Oh, I killed coyotes with that, foxes, buck, deer. Oh, there's more deer than there ever was. Yeah, as far as that goes, oh sure. You look out in the woods, there's no undergrowth. Here a few years back, well, maybe 20, 30 years ago, at home there in the swamp, you had to kind of push your way through one. Now you don't have to duck your head. I'll tell you, I had a good teacher. My dad was a great teacher for hunting. And he didn't hunt till later years. He was born and raised right here, a couple of miles out here. He didn't see a deer until he was 14 years old. There was none.
You were too busy chasing
there
boys.
was not much. There was small game. Oh, he said like partridge and spruce hens, rabbits, squirrels. A deer, there was no feed for him way back. You know, it was all big timber. And you can't do like we used to make drives. Do that. We never looked for property lines, you know. We just go. You were visiting them days when you were on the neighbors, you know. Now you're trespassing. Yeah, that's the way we done it. We never had bait piles or blinds. We didn't have time. We were always working. It's not hunting anymore. It's target shooting mostly. There's target shooters and there's killers and hunters. Not too many. Like we used to do, stalk them or drive them or something. You know. Yeah, that was it.
What would you tell new hunters coming up?
Well, you know, they don't have much chance because you're tied down. You can't trespass on your neighbor's land, eh? You step over that much over the line, hey, you're trespassing. I see that. Yeah, so they can't help it. I mean, it's a different world.
My sons hunt, I hunt, my dad hunted, my grandpa hunted, and so on. And I'm certain that tradition will continue for many, many years to come. It's hard to say what hunting will be 20, 50, or 101 years from now. It could be better, it could be worse. I don't know. But I do know we'll be doing it. And if we use the things we learn from people like Hank, we'll be doing it right.
Yeah. And you know, I had a pretty great life. I had a nice wife and I had 7 wonderful children. And they're still taking care of me. I don't have to watch them very close anymore. They watch me now, and do they ever watch?
Trying to keep up.
Great.